My roommate got pregnant before graduation and was too scared to go home. She ended up staying at my place during her pregnancy. But when her parents showed up one day, she turned around and spread a lie, claiming she was carrying my father's child. That single lie shattered everything. My dad became the target of nationwide outrage. People cursed him, insulted him, and accused him of being a monster. Under all that pressure, my father fell into depression and eventually jumped to his death. My mom couldn't take it either. She followed him soon after. Meanwhile, Clara Brown, the so-called friend who destroyed my family, started live streaming her sob story online. Playing the part of the strong, wronged single mom, she raked in sympathy, followers, and fame. Within a year, she was living in a mansion and driving a luxury car, all thanks to that fabricated tragedy. But fate gave me a second chance. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day Clara first told me she was pregnant. "Lucy. I'm in trouble," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm pregnant. If my parents find out, they'll kill me. But this baby, it's a real life. I want to give them a chance to see the world. I can't get rid of it. Please, help me." The voice was so familiar it sent shivers down my spine. That's when it hit me, I had been reborn. In my previous life, Clara came to me just before we graduated college, telling me she was pregnant and terrified. She said she couldn't go home and the dorm wasn't a suitable place to stay during pregnancy. I had a soft heart and eventually let her move into my off-campus home. I never expected I was letting a viper into my life. As her belly grew day by day, Clara's parents showed up, with reporters and cameras in tow. Clara burst into tears in front of the cameras and claimed that the child she was carrying belonged to my father. She said he had locked her up in our house after getting her pregnant. The internet exploded. My dad was a well-known businessman. His rivals seized the opportunity to drag him down, spreading fake news, hiring online trolls, and smearing his name under the guise of justice. Netizens boycotted our family's products and cursed him into oblivion. Our company's stocks plummeted, our business partners cut ties, and we lost everything overnight. Dad couldn't handle the humiliation. He jumped. Mom followed. And Clara? She went live again and again, crying and talking about her strength and victimhood. People ate it up. 1 year later, she was rich and famous. Now, as I stared at her with my newly awakened eyes, I swore silently, "Mom, Dad, I'm sorry I failed you before." "Lucy, why are you so quiet?" Clara asked. "Didn't your dad buy you a villa near campus? Can I stay there for a while? The environment would be so much better for the baby." She shook my arm as she spoke, trying to sound sweet and helpless. I snapped out of my thoughts and yanked her hand away. "Why the hell should I let you stay in my house?" Clara froze. So did Sarah Jones, our other roommate, who immediately jumped to Clara's defense. "Lucy, seriously? You're so stingy. That villa your dad bought you is huge, and you barely live there. What's the big deal in letting Clara stay there for a while? God, rich people can be so selfish." She looked indignant, like she was standing up for justice. I almost forgot, she was Clara's accomplice in my past life. After Clara framed my dad, he wanted to get a paternity test to prove his innocence. But on the way to the hospital, I got into an accident and conveniently lost the baby. With the evidence gone, public opinion split in two. That's when Sarah jumped in and condemned my dad, calling him a predator. "No woman would ruin her own reputation unless it was true," she said. "Clara is the victim here. I've known this for a long time, but I was too scared to speak out. Now I'm ready to atone." She sounded so sincere that everyone sided with Clara completely. And now, here she was again, going on and on. "I heard you don't even stay at that villa often, but you still have a housekeeper going over to clean it. Clara living there would actually make use of it. The housekeeper could help her too." I gave her a cold stare. "Doesn't your family have a house too? Isn't your mom a housekeeper? Why not bring Clara there and have your mom take care of her? You're such a saint, aren't you?" Sarah's mouth opened to argue, but she quickly realized the trap and shut up. Hypocrisy looked good on her. Clara, eyes red with fake tears, gently tugged Sarah's sleeve. "Forget it, Sarah. You don't have to defend me. I'm not the kind of person who takes things for granted." I gave a sarcastic laugh. "You'd better not be. In my last life, even though I had that villa, I still stayed in the dorm most of the time. I'd only go back on weekends. But one time, Clara and Sarah secretly followed me and found out about the house. They said I was hiding it too well. With such a nice place, they thought I should be sharing it with them. From that day on, they started pestering me to let them stay over every weekend. Back then, I didn't know how to say no, we were roommates, after all. They treated my stuff like it was theirs. They used my skincare products without asking. If they liked one of my outfits or bags, they'd borrow it, just for a few days, and never return it. They'd even send me links to things online and say, hey, this would look good on you. I'd buy it, and it would end up in their closets. I thought I was being a good friend. Now I realize how stupid I was. That afternoon, I walked into class and was immediately met with stares. I wasn't the social type, and I usually sat with Clara and Sarah. But today, they were sitting with a different group of girls. When they saw me, Sarah lifted her chin and said loudly, wow, some people sure know how to switch faces faster than flipping pages. Used to act all chummy, now look at them. Clara tugged at her arm, trying to stop her, but it only drew more attention. Curious classmates leaned in. What happened? Spill it. Lucy's got this house off campus, right? Clara's been feeling sick lately and asked to stay there for a while. But Lucy flat out refused. The whole class gasped. Didn't Clara give Lucy a sugar mousse cake for her birthday? One of those little things costs thousands. I remembered it clearly. As a dessert lover, I had a sugar mousse gift card from Dad that I could swipe whenever I wanted. Clara took that card, bought a cake, and presented it as of a present for me. The card itself? Still in her purse. My eyes dropped to the fancy pastries sitting in front of Clara and Sarah. Each of them had a sugar mousse box of their own. Sarah wouldn't shut up. Exactly. Clara's always been nothing but generous, yet some people, she shot me a look, are total ingrates who won't lift a finger for a friend. Some friend, huh? Before she could finish, I grabbed the 2 cakes and smashed them straight into their faces. They froze for a heartbeat, dripping frosting, then Sarah exploded. Lucy, what is wrong with you? Clara's eyes filled with tears. Lucy, I don't know what's gotten into you lately. If you're upset with me, talk to me. You didn't have to hurt Sarah. I chuckled, pulled out my phone, and dialed. Hello, police? I'd like to report a theft. The room fell silent, except for a buzz of whispers. Who stole what? Only Clara and Sarah looked truly panicked. Sarah, always the hothead, jumped up first. Lucy, don't you dare spread lies. Clara and I never stole anything. Funny how thieves are always the first to panic. Clara stood and spoke softly beside me. Lucy, can't we discuss this calmly? There's no need to waste police resources. Police resources, coming from the woman who blasted a lie that ruined my dad? I stared her down. I'm just protecting my rights. What are you so nervous about? The commotion drew a crowd. The police arrived quickly. I told them Clara Brown and Sarah Jones had used my 4 premium black cards to fund their week-long shopping spree. A ripple of shock ran through the onlookers. Wait, they bought gifts with someone else's money and called them presents? That's messed up. Of course, a few people jumped to their defense. Maybe it's a misunderstanding. Clara's so sweet, Sarah's always friendly. Lucy's the quiet one, kinda gloomy if you ask me. Someone pleaded with the officers, please clear their names, they'd never steal. With half the class backing them, Sarah straightened her spine and denied everything. Too bad the cards were in their backpacks, the purchases logged under their names, and store clerks ready to testify. A week, 4 or 5 grand burned like it was nothing. Just as the officer began to speak, Clara's eyes rolled back and she collapsed to the floor. Sarah screamed, Clara. Clara, are you okay? The cops knelt to check her pulse. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as she glared at me. Lucy, over a few $1,000s, you're pushing her to the edge? Clara's got a weak heart. Sure, your family's rich, but that doesn't mean you can slander people. You gave us those cards and told us to have fun. If you wanted them back, just say so, we're not freeloaders. Clara's stunt swayed the crowd. Can you believe Lucy? Choosing money over friendship? What about Clara's life? Sympathy poured her way. After all, we were roommates, why make things ugly? Everyone murmured while I stood there, arms folded. Fine, I said at last. Let's call an ambulance, get Clara to the hospital, run some full checks, heart, and maybe see what else she's hiding in that belly. Clara coughed and snapped her eyes open before I could finish. Sorry, everyone. I must have scared you. I'm fine. Lucy, don't worry, we'll pay you back. The school didn't want the publicity of students hauled to the station, so the officers hinted I should let it slide. Clara was on the student press team, too. It took only hours before photos hit the campus forum, Clara lying on the floor in agony while I looked on, cold and heartless. The comment section roasted me alive. Rich kids think money makes them untouchable. Bullying classmates, seen it 100 times. Scrolling through the comments, I saw plenty defending Clara, you can't be sure. Maybe that freshman on the floor stole Lucy's card. If you had money, would you let others blow through it? Another wrote, rich brats are so moody. One day they hand you their credit card, the next they accuse you of theft. And then, I know Clara Brown, sweetest girl on campus. I shut my phone. No use stewing over anonymous opinions. The police gave Clara and Sarah 3 days to return the money. The third day was a Saturday, and my parents called to say they'd just flown back from a business trip and were waiting at my villa to see me. I rushed over, unlocked the door, only to find Clara and Sarah already sitting on my couch, sipping juice like honored guests. Rage flooded my veins. "What are you doing here?" I asked, voice ice cold. Before Clara could speak, Sarah turned to my father, who just walked in from the kitchen. "Mr. Smith, we see you on the news all the time doing charity work." But Lucy, well, she forced a pained smile. "We actually came to pay back the money, sir. We only used her dessert card for a few snacks, and Lucy's making us reimburse every cent. Clara's family isn't well off. She's emptying out her entire savings just to settle this. Lucy's so wealthy, yet she's nickel-and-diming us. It really doesn't fit with your family's generous reputation." I almost laughed. Mom's expression flattened. "That card belongs to Lucy. Why should anyone else use it? Being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. If you're here to repay the debt, leave the money and see yourselves out." Dad simply folded his arms. Their unwavering support tightened my throat. In the last life they'd trusted my terrible judgment, even letting these girls stay under our roof. Never again. Clara shot Sarah a signal, and Sarah stepped up her performance. "Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I can't believe you're enabling this cruelty." "Fine, keep the money. We want nothing to do with someone so petty." "Come on, Clara." She grabbed Clara's hand and stormed toward the door. "Leave the cash," I said. Clara stiffened, then silently dropped a thick envelope on the coffee table before they left. The moment the door shut, I fell into my parents' arms and finally sobbed. Between hiccups I told them everything, my death, my rebirth, the betrayal. They listened in stunned silence but believed me. Dad squeezed my hand. "Let us handle them." I shook my head. "I have to do this myself. Just take a vacation, stay offline, no matter what happens next." Back at the dorm I heard Clara and Sarah laughing inside. The moment they saw me, their faces went blank and they ignored me. My bedding was soaked with ramen broth, my skincare bottles were scattered across the floor. I confronted them, but Clara pretended not to hear, and Sarah drawled, "Got proof?" My eyes reddened in mock frustration. Over the next few days they locked me out of the room, hogged the bathroom until lights out, each petty stunt boosting their sense of triumph. Finally, after class one afternoon, I raised my voice in front of everyone. "Clara, you said you weren't feeling well and needed a better place to stay. I thought it over, friends should help friends. You can move into my house." Sarah's eyes lit up, she nudged Clara. Clara shot her a warning look, then turned to me with a warm smile. "Lucy, I'm glad you realized that. Friends should help each other." I nodded vigorously. That very afternoon, Clara began packing. She couldn't delay, soon her stomach would start to show. Sarah started showing up constantly under the excuse of checking in on Clara. The two of them would lounge on my living room couch, casually ordering me around like I was their maid. "Lucy," Sarah said one day, "I want some durian and cherries, lots of them." "Sure," I replied with a smile and headed into the kitchen. The moment I closed the door behind me, I pulled out my phone and hit play. On the screen, Sarah's face lit up with excitement. "Clara, you were right. We froze Lucy out for a while and now she's crawling back to us." Clara beamed with pride. "Of course. When she asked us to return the card, people finally saw her true colors. Now everyone hates her. Doesn't want to hang out. Good thing you and I are kind enough to forgive her." Sarah snorted. "I don't even know what got into her, freaking out and demanding her card back like that. And making us pay her back. God, I haven't had sugar mousse pastries in ages." Clara placed a hand over her belly and whispered, "It's fine. Soon enough, the good days will finally begin." Sarah didn't quite catch it. "What did you say?" Clara just smiled and shook her head. "Nothing." But I had seen the shape of her lips, and my blood ran cold. She had planned this. From the very first day she moved in, she had a scheme. I took a deep breath and walked back into the living room, balancing the tray of fruit. Sarah frowned. "Ugh, you really overfilled it." "Just wanted to make sure it was rinsed extra well," I replied with a grin. Clara giggled. "Lucy, your house doesn't have cameras, right?" I lowered my gaze and gave a little nod. "No. I hardly ever stay here." Clara nodded, satisfied. "It's smart for girls to install security at home, but now that I'm here with you, you don't need to waste money like that." In my past life, she'd asked the same question, and back then, I'd answered the same way, thinking she was worried about my safety. Once she confirmed there was no surveillance, she completely let her guard down and acted like the place was hers. Every day, they ordered me to serve them the best food and drinks. "You're the host," they said. "We're guests. That's just how it works." I smiled through gritted teeth, barely stopping myself from smashing their smug faces in. Clara's belly grew noticeably larger. She began skipping classes entirely. Then, one Sunday morning, I looked at the calendar and knew it was today. Right on cue, the doorbell rang at 8 a.m. I yawned and rubbed my eyes, playing the tired host. As I opened the door, I saw Mr. and Mrs. Brown standing there with a horde of reporters behind them. Cameras, boom mics, full media circus. My daughter. Mr. Brown shouted, jabbing a finger at me. You monsters at the Smith house. Give us back our child. They charged into the house with the press hot on their heels. Is this really the daughter of Abner Smith's house? Someone muttered as their camera clicked non-stop. It's huge. Gorgeous. I stood by with a carefully stunned and furious expression, same as I wore last time. Who are you? Why are you in my house? Just then, footsteps echoed from upstairs. Clara came stumbling down, barefoot, her hair wild, her belly huge. Her wrists and arms were covered in red, raw scratches. Mrs. Brown screamed. Clara. My baby girl, what happened to you? Clara trembled, nearly crawling as she flung herself into her mother's arms. Mom. Dad. You finally found me. The reporters lost it. Cameras snapped like gunfire, zeroing in on the emotional reunion. Mr. Brown turned on Clara. How the hell did you get pregnant? He raised a hand to slap her, but Mrs. Brown stopped him. Sobbing, she asked, where have you been? We've been looking everywhere, calls, texts, nothing. And your belly, what's going on? Back then, I hadn't noticed the holes in their story. Like, if they couldn't reach her, why didn't they file a missing person report? And how did the press already know I was Abner Smith's daughter? I smirked coldly and stayed quiet, watching them perform the same scene as last time. Right on cue, Clara told the press that the baby was my father's. That he locked her up to keep her from speaking out, forcing her to have the child so he could use it to control her. The reporters practically salivated. Some even started live streaming on the spot. Miss Brown, one asked, we've confirmed you were Lucy Smith's college roommate. Are you saying she knew and allowed this to happen? Clara's eyes filled with pain. She's the one who brought me here. That one line lit the internet on fire. Monsters, shouted a reporter. Abner Smith and his daughter are monsters. How could you do something so depraved? Another lunged at me, ready to slap me across the face. I dodged, of course. A few sane reporters asked for proof. In my past life, this was when I asked Clara to get a prenatal DNA test. She agreed. But on the way to the hospital, she was in a convenient car crash, and the baby was lost. This time, I said nothing. Clara kept sneaking glances at me, clearly trying to gauge my reaction. Finally, with teary eyes and a trembling voice, she said, let's go to the hospital for a prenatal DNA test. I'd never falsely accuse anyone. There it was, confirmation of what I already knew. There was no way the baby in Clara's belly belonged to my dad. She only offered the test because she already had a backup plan. The car accident in the last life hadn't been a coincidence, it was staged. I clenched my jaw, forcing down the surge of rage. Just as Clara stood to leave for the hospital, I cut in. No need. I already called a medical team. They're in an ambulance outside. We'll do the test right here. The Browns froze. Here. Mrs. Brown stammered. A test, here. I nodded calmly. Going to the hospital wastes time. And what if there's another accident along the way? I smiled faintly. Don't worry, the medical team will ensure Clara's privacy and safety. Right on cue, a group of doctors in white coats entered the room. Mrs. Brown sputtered in disbelief. Mr. Brown stepped in front of Clara protectively, glaring daggers at the team. Lucy, your family arranged this? You expect us to trust people hired by the Smiths? With your money, you could pay off anyone. I gave a dry laugh, but before I could answer, a voice rang out from the crowd of reporters. That's Dr. Yang's team. They're one of the most respected groups in the country. They don't fake results. Don't slander them. Exactly, another journalist echoed. They've got an excellent reputation. If anything, they'd refuse a case before faking results. Mr. Brown scoffed. Not wanting to doesn't mean they won't. We're going to the city hospital. The two sides were at an impasse until someone from the crowd suggested, why not collect 2 samples? One goes to Dr. Yang's team and the other to the city hospital. Let's see if the results match. A female reporter stepped forward. I'll go along and supervise. Mr. Brown hesitated, but given the circumstances, he had no choice but to agree. Clara, the reporter, and the medical team headed to the ambulance. Mr. Brown turned to me with icy disdain. Where's your father? Hiding now that he's been exposed? What, too ashamed to face the press? I smirked. My dad's busy. If he had to deal with every random woman who claimed she was carrying his child, he'd be at the hospital every day. Draw my blood, if Clara's baby is truly his, we'd still share partial DNA as half-siblings. Before I could finish, a familiar voice cut me off. Use mine. I turned around and saw my parents, who were supposed to be overseas, standing right behind me. The reporters went wild, turning their cameras on Dad. Mr. Smith. Clara Brown claims you're the father of her unborn child. Is it true? Did you and your daughter collaborate to trap Clara? My dad's security team held them back as he spoke calmly. Wait for the test results. Then we'll talk. My mom stepped beside me and held my hand. You're not going through this alone, Lucy. My throat tightened, and I gave her a firm nod. An hour and a half later, the results were in. While we waited, the internet exploded. Live streams were flooded with viewers. Everyone was waiting. Dr. Yang returned with the DNA report. It showed there was zero genetic relationship between Abner Smith and Clara's baby. The room burst into gasps. She was lying the whole time. This whole scandal, completely fabricated. In a lawful society, how dare you? Dad's legal team was already on the move. Mr. Brown, his face pale and stiff, growled, "The city hospital report isn't back yet. Don't celebrate too soon." Right then, the female reporter who had gone to the hospital rushed back, panting, clutching a file. The results say there's a 99% probability that Abner Smith is the biological father. What? The press was stunned. Mr. Brown screamed, "Smith family. You really had this planned. You're all disgusting liars." Dr. Yang's expression darkened. Impossible. Oh please, Mr. Brown snapped. Lucy tried to stop us from going to the city hospital. Got her own fancy team? Obviously sketchy. You rich people and you're paid for lies, don't think we don't see right through it. May karma strike you down. Mrs. Brown joined in, sobbing and slapping her thighs like she was in a soap opera. Dr. Yang was furious, his lips trembling. Their test is fake. Ours is the real one. But he was no match for the Browns in a shouting match. For every sentence he spoke, they had 10 more. Meanwhile, Sarah, who'd been watching the live stream, stepped into the chaos like she had in the previous life and delivered her infamous line again. No girl would ruin her own reputation for a lie. Please don't look at Clara like she's the villain. She's the victim here. I've known this for so long but was too scared to say it. Now I want to atone. Please, give me that chance. As soon as Sarah made her dramatic testimony, the internet exploded. Viewers watching the live stream spammed the comments with rage. My dad's business rivals, those old snakes, jumped into the chaos, buying bot accounts to amplify the slander and smeared the Smith family even more. The scandal hit a fever pitch. Some people online even organized themselves into protest groups, claiming they were going to bring rotten eggs and spoiled cabbage to my front door. But that was exactly what I was waiting for, Sarah's statement. Now that I had it, I smiled slightly. Everyone, hold on a moment. I've got a few short videos I'd like you all to watch. What videos? Someone shouted. You think you can delay this? Your family did something unforgivable to my daughter. We're taking this to court. Mr. Brown fumed and tried to grab my dad, but his bodyguards kept him at bay. Meanwhile, the female reporter who had gone with Clara earlier returned, holding a medical report from the private hospital. The crowd quieted. Then she exploded. You followed me? You had someone stalking me? That's a violation of privacy. That's right, I said casually. As soon as you stepped outside my home, I had someone trail you. She glared at me. This is illegal. Then go report me to the police, I said, unfazed. Honestly, I hadn't planned to follow her at first. But the way she looked at Mr. Brown earlier, the resemblance in their eyes and brows triggered a gut instinct. And I trusted that instinct. Mr. Brown shouted again, see? It's all fake. The Smiths are frauds. Dr. Yang, livid now, held up his phone. You've just seriously damaged my team's professional reputation. My lawyers will be in contact. And we'll be going after that private hospital too. You don't get to drag our names through the mud. The livestream audience didn't need any more convincing. The truth was obvious now. But the Browns kept yelling. Clara tried a new tactic. We don't know that reporter. She's not connected to us. Maybe the Smith family set this up. Sarah chimed in. Yeah, Clara's always had a vivid imagination. The murmurs in the crowd grew again. Some people actually started to believe it might be possible. I didn't flinch. I simply queued up another video. On the screen, Clara lounged on my couch, her belly clearly starting to show. Sarah and Clara both barked orders at me like I was the help. In one clip, Clara even demanded I take her shopping. Her face twisted in rage. You tricked me. You said you didn't have cameras. I ignored her. Clara begged to stay at my house, I said loudly. She said the dorm was bad for her mental health and the baby. Everyone in our class knows it. If I really kept her locked up, how could she go in and out as she pleased? Shopping trips, social visits. Then I mimicked her voice, eyes red, trembling lips. I didn't even know she was pregnant at first. She hadn't graduated, wasn't married, and wouldn't tell me who the father was. Now I know why. It was all part of this plan. Just then, the investigator I'd sent returned and whispered something in my ear. I smiled with icy satisfaction. Turns out, I said, the reporter? She's Clara's aunt. Gasps erupted. So much for denying the connection. Clara had so few real friends that even her own family had to pose as neutral parties to help her stage a media circus. It was all an act, meant to exploit public sympathy like a loaded weapon. And now. Those protest groups with their rotten eggs and cabbages had arrived outside. They'd watched the whole thing live. Now, instead of aiming at me, they were hurling their garbage at the Browns. The Browns were done. Or so I thought. Clara suddenly burst into tears and pointed at her parents. It was them. They made me do it. If I didn't go through with this, they said they'd beat me. I have a little brother, they wanted Mr. Smith to buy him a car and a house. I already knew Clara had a younger brother and that her family was very much the sexist, old-school type. But even I didn't believe her parents had orchestrated this entire scheme. They didn't even know my dad's identity at first. And they definitely didn't force her to get pregnant. Still, I wasn't about to interrupt a good dogfight. You lying brat. Mr. Brown roared. How dare you put this on your own father? You want to die. Then, smack, he slapped Clara across the face, hard. She didn't fight back. Just sat on the ground, eyes glossy with tears. She looked genuinely pitiful. Some bystanders even started to pity her. Poor thing, someone murmured. I've seen families like that, forcing girls to sacrifice everything for their brothers. God, I thought she was twisted, but maybe it wasn't all her fault. Now the crowd was confused again. The narrative was twisting too fast. After I'd presented undeniable evidence that the baby wasn't my father's, I called the police. The Browns were now involved in a full-blown criminal investigation. Several of them were taken into custody. But because Clara was pregnant, her sentencing would be delayed. And that's when she played her next hand. She went viral, again. On live streams, she rebranded herself as a brave, wronged woman, a victim of a patriarchal household. She told tearful stories about being forced into deception. She apologized sincerely and detailed all the psychological and physical trauma she'd endured. And people? They ate it up. Just like in my past life, Clara once again went viral. She wasn't stupid. Riding the wave of sympathy, she began donating generously and volunteering at shelters, even with her fake baby bump on full display. Paparazzi followed her every move, snapping photos and filming her redemption arc. Many online viewers were touched. Petitions circulated, begging the court for leniency in her sentencing. Clara, drunk on the spotlight, looked more and more pleased with herself. I closed the live stream and glanced at my calendar. It was time. After all, falling from the heavens into the mud, that kind of pain? It never gets old. In my previous life, Clara became a national sweetheart, while the Smith family went bankrupt. My mom and dad died from the fallout. I was so devastated I tried to end my life by jumping into a river. That's where I met someone, Eric Miller. Back then, Clara's boyfriend 3 years ago. He told me what Clara had done to him. 3 years ago, Clara came to him crying, claiming she was being bullied by a high school classmate. Furious, Eric had tried to confront the girl in a back alley, only for the police to show up mid-confrontation. And Clara? Clara pointed to him and claimed he had assaulted the girl. Even worse, the girl backed her up. I asked why. Why would that girl lie? Eric explained that she was Clara's former roommate. Her family was well off. Clara used to play the pitiful victim around her, claiming she had an abusive boyfriend she couldn't shake. The girl had believed her and tried to help. But after Eric was jailed, Clara went on a media tour painting that same girl as impure, fueling online rumors that ruined her. Eventually, the girl was forced to transfer schools. Do you have any proof? I asked. He did. Eric owned a small restaurant beside that alley. Years ago, he'd installed a security camera to catch local kids drawing graffiti and peeing on the walls. He'd forgotten all about it, until the incident. When he remembered, he told the prison guards he had footage proving his innocence. But they dismissed him. Told him the video didn't exist. Told him to stop making trouble. By then, Clara was already famous. And Eric? He was a nobody, an orphan with no power, sitting in a jail cell. I'm sure someone tipped Clara off, Eric said bitterly. After that, prison became hell. Why would Clara do this to you? I asked. She thought I was too poor. But didn't want to be the one to break up. Those words chilled me. Clara wasn't just manipulative, she was terrifying. After Eric was released, he tried to run a small business. But nobody wanted to buy from someone branded a predator. No one would hire him either. His life was ruined just because Clara didn't want to date a broke guy anymore. So this time, after my rebirth, I sent someone to retrieve that surveillance footage from Eric's restaurant. This time, the Smith family was still rich and powerful. And the footage? It hit trending #1 in minutes. Just as Clara was milking her sob story on stage, someone shoved her off it. The crowd lost it. Punches, kicks, chaos broke out. Someone screamed, her belly bump had burst. It wasn't a baby. Just a pillow. I remembered, Clara once said she didn't like children. Didn't want to suffer through childbirth. When they rushed her to the hospital, she was covered in blood. Some people didn't even want to help her at first. But someone reminded the crowd that she still had a prison sentence to serve. Only then did they patch her up. The petitions vanished overnight. And with Eric's case resurfacing? Her sentence got heavier. Once she recovered, she'd spend the rest of her life behind bars. Eric? He refused to press further charges. He told me he just wanted to travel. To see the world he missed. I respected that. But I didn't forget someone else. Sarah Jones, aka Clara's bestie. Because of her perjury, my dad jumped off a building. My mom died with him. This life, I made sure everyone saw the footage of Sarah standing up for Clara. I hired every PR agency I could find to blow it up. Sarah became public enemy #1. She was shamed at school, spat at on the streets, pelted with eggs and cabbage. Forget job offers, no company would touch someone with a reputation like hers. But the most satisfying part? Sarah blamed Clara for all of it. During one prison visit, she used a connection to get a face-to-face with Clara. They said she ripped chunks of Clara's scalp out and slapped her dozens of times before someone intervened. Sarah was detained, and her relative lost their job. Only then did I breathe a little easier. Only then did the crushing weight on my chest finally lift. At last, I could look forward to a future with my mom and dad again.